The story begins in a warmly lit pub somewhere in London. 5 longtime friends from university, Phil, Dom, Hutch, Luke, and Rob, gather to catch up over drinks. Amid laughter and memories, the conversation shifts to the idea of a group trip. Rob, always the dreamer and most adventurous of the bunch, suggests hiking through the wilderness of Sweden. His proposal is met with mild groans and mockery, quickly dismissed by the others in favor of more comfortable alternatives. Later that evening, the group leaves the pub. They pass a convenience store, and Luke, unwilling to end the night just yet, suggests picking up a bottle of vodka. Rob joins him. Inside the store, a quiet unease hangs in the air. Behind the register, a cashier is slumped against the wall, clearly in distress. Before they can fully process the situation, 2 armed men emerge from the back. Luke instinctively ducks behind a shelf. Rob stands frozen. The robbers shout demands, and Rob hands over his wallet and watch. But when they reach for his wedding ring, Rob refuses. Luke watches, paralyzed. The robbers lash out, and in an instant, Rob is struck down. Luke remains hidden, horrified and helpless. 6 months later, the remaining 4 friends embark on a hiking trip through Kungsleden in Sweden to honor Rob's wish. Their grief still lingers, though they each carry it differently. Luke in particular is haunted. His silence and the way his gaze lingers on the horizon hint at the weight he bears. The hike begins peacefully. Mountains loom in the distance. Forests stretch endlessly, and the group tries to reconnect. Hutch leads confidently with the map. Dom trails behind, often grumbling, and Phil tries to lighten the mood. The group reaches a quiet clearing and takes a moment to honor Rob. They build a small shrine, raising a drink in his memory. The others speak a few solemn words, but Luke stays silent, visibly burdened by the memory of Rob's final moments in the store. Not long after they begin their return journey, the hike takes a grim turn. Dom missteps on the uneven trail and falls hard, injuring his leg, slowing their progress and forcing the group to reassess their route. Hutch suggests a shortcut through a dense forest that could halve their travel time. Dom is grateful, but Luke is uneasy. The forest ahead looks ancient, untouched. The forest swallows them quickly. The trail vanishes, and towering trees press in. Light filters weakly through the thick canopy. Despite the setback, the group keeps their spirits up. They joke about their post-hike meals and snap a few photos, trying to hold on to a sense of normalcy. But the mood shifts abruptly when they stumble upon a grotesque sight. The mutilated remains of an elk. Its massive body hangs suspended in the trees. The sight roots them in place. It's not the work of a predator. Something else did this. A storm breaks out. Rain lashes down, soaking them to the bone. Hutch spots a cabin through the trees. Desperate for shelter, they break in. Inside, it's dank and eerily quiet. As the others step into the cabin, Luke lingers outside. A faint sound rustles behind him. He spins around, flashlight sweeping across the dark tree line, but finds nothing there. Only silence and shadows. Inside, the cabin is eerily quiet. Strange totems hang from the walls, their shapes crude and ritualistic, hinting at something ancient and unsettling. Tension builds as Hutch and Dom argue over whether they should stay the night or keep moving. The storm outside leaves them little choice. Upstairs, Phil finds something even more disturbing. A wooden effigy shaped like a torso, headless, with crude antlers protruding like arms. It looks like an object of worship. Uneasy and shaken, the group decides they have no better option than to stay the night. As darkness settles in, they huddle around the fireplace, trying to make sense of what they found upstairs. The twisted effigy, the symbols, it all points to something old and unsettling. They quietly agree it must be the remnants of some kind of pagan ritual, though none of them want to dwell on it for long. No one sleeps easily. In the darkness, the forest seems alive. Each of the men suffers horrifying nightmares. Luke finds himself back in the fluorescent-lit aisles of the convenience store, reliving the night Rob died. The shelves are frozen in time, the sound of distant footsteps echoing like a memory that refuses to fade. Then, just as the fear takes hold, he jolts awake, but not inside the cabin. He's standing in the forest near the cabin, surrounded by trees. Disoriented and in pain, Luke clutches his chest and notices 4 distinct gouges carved into his skin. Fighting panic, he stumbles his way back to the cabin. Inside, he wakes Hutch, who looks just as shaken. Luke moves to check on Dom next, only to find him convulsing on the floor. But as Luke gets closer, Dom abruptly snaps out of it. The cabin has turned into something far more sinister than shelter. Phil is missing. The others find him upstairs in the attic, naked and kneeling before the effigy in a trance-like state. The group leaves the cabin and tries to make their way out, but the forest is disorienting. Everything looks the same. Hours pass. The trees close in tighter. After hours of difficult hiking, Dom finally collapses beside a fallen log, clutching his injured knee. His face is drawn with pain and exhaustion. Hutch urges the group to keep moving. The tension that's been simmering between them starts to rise. Luke, hoping to regain some direction, climbs a steep ridge in search of a vantage point. From the top, he scans the horizon. The forest stretches endlessly, oppressive and silent. Then, something catches his eye. A human-like hand with unnaturally long fingers curled around a tree trunk. Before he can process it, a massive shape shifts through the trees below, silent but powerful. Shaken, Luke hurries back to the others and tries to warn them, but Dom is skeptical. The group's exhaustion and fear erupt into confrontation. Accusations flare. Dom's resentment spills over, unspoken blame for Rob's death surfacing in raw emotion. Hutch attempts to calm things, but his uncertain expression speaks volumes. Luke, already haunted by regret, now feels the weight of confirmation, that his friends might see him the same way he sees himself. That night, Luke is trapped in another nightmare. The store, Rob, the helplessness, all playing out again in vivid horror. Suddenly, something heavy moves just outside the tent. He jolts awake, heart pounding. Luke scrambles out into the cold. Phil is already outside, pale and shaking, pointing toward Hutch's tent, now shredded and empty. Dom stirs as Luke shakes him awake. Phil manages to speak. Something took Hutch. Before they can react, a scream tears through the trees, Hutch's voice, raw and distant, swallowed by the forest. Then, a guttural sound follows. It echoes like an animal, but unnatural. Terror sets in, but they push into the darkness anyway, calling Hutch's name. They hear his screams echoing through the woods. But the forest distorts everything. The screaming stops. Daylight brings no relief. They're lost. No campsite, no gear, just the three of them now. Eventually, they find Hutch, or what remains of him. His body is hanging in the trees like the elk, gutted, displayed. The weight of it all bears down on them. They bury Hutch the best they can. Phil wants to push forward. Dom is nearly crippled by pain and despair. Luke takes the lead. Luke ventures up a hill to get his bearings. In the distance, he sees smoke, campfires, civilization. Hope stirs for the first time in days. When he returns, Phil and Dom are alert, eyes fixed on the trees. They've heard something. Before Luke can process what's happening, Phil is yanked backward into the forest by something massive and unseen. Panic sets in. Luke grabs Dom, and they run. Trees blur past them. They stumble onto a path lined with torches. Luke scans the tree line and freezes. High above, tangled in the branches like a grotesque display, hangs Phil's lifeless body. The sight steals the breath from his lungs. Horrified, but with no time to grieve, and fear clawing at their backs, the two push forward, following the torch-lit path deeper into the unknown. They burst into a small village and collapse in the first building they find. Before they can breathe, figures emerge from the shadows and knock them unconscious. Luke wakes in a dark, moldy basement, his wrists bound. The air is thick with rot. An old woman enters and examines Luke's chest. She reveals similar markings on her own skin. The old woman turns her attention to Dom, examining him in silence. Without speaking, she issues a command to the others. Dom is seized and dragged away. Moments later, Luke hears his muffled screams echoing from above. Later, a younger woman explains. They are part of a cult that worships an ancient god, something from the old world, a creature called a Jotun. In exchange for worship and sacrifice, it grants immortality. When Dom is finally brought back, his face is bloodied and bruised. He urges Luke to fight, to escape. There's no saving him now. Dom is dragged outside and tied to a wooden post as night descends. The cultists kneel, chanting. A roar shatters the silence. From the trees, something emerges. Dom sees his wife approaching, but it's not her. The illusion breaks. The creature is massive, towering, with a deer-like face and arms that resemble antlers. It lifts Dom and impales him high in the trees. Another offering claimed. Still trapped in the cabin, Luke peers through a narrow gap in the wall, silently watching everything unfold outside. Luke breaks his thumb to escape his bindings. He hides as the cult prepares for the next ritual. Behind a door, He finds the cult's secret, rows of mummified, still-living worshippers, frozen in eternal reverence. It's a grotesque gallery of devotion. He sets them ablaze. As the flames rise, faint, eerie whispers escape their shriveled forms. The cabin catches fire rapidly. The blaze draws attention. On his way out, Luke crosses paths with the old woman. He knocks her out with a single punch. Quickly arming himself, he pushes forward. Outside, the enraged Jotun emerges from the shadows, drawn by the fire. Luke encounters another cultist in the hallway, and without hesitation shoots him. As he nears the front door, the towering creature blocks the exit. Luke veers off, escaping through another way. There, in full view, he sees the Jotun clearly for the first time. Its grotesque, inhuman form freezes him with horror. Trembling, he raises his rifle and fires. The bullets have no effect. The Jotun turns its gaze on him, and the chase begins. Luke sprints through the forest, disoriented, hallucinating scenes of the convenience store, Rob's death playing out again and again. He stumbles, and the Jotun seizes him, forcing him to his knees, demanding submission. But Luke resists. His eyes lock on an axe nearby. Summoning every ounce of strength, he grabs it and strikes the beast. The blow lands, stunning the creature. Without looking back, Luke bolts toward the rising sun, breaking through the tree line into an open field. The Jotun halts, bound to the forest. It unleashes a furious roar. Luke turns and yells back with everything he has. He's made it. He's survived. In the distance, a road stretches across the landscape, a quiet promise of return to the world he once knew.